Finished cutting the threads in the Toolpost mount. They came out nice and clean and crisp, so that's good. With that done, we can move on to machining the Toolpost mounting stud. This was the original design I had for the mounting stud, but it's not actually quite right. So I've redesigned it and done another sketch. So we've got 4 different diameters to cut, and we've got M12 by 1.5 mil threads on either end, and this 20mm diameter section, this is what the tool post is going to register on, so that's a critical dimension. Going to make it out of this length of bright mild steel bar, so we'll get that chopped with a hacksaw and then get it mounted up in the lathe. I'm going to cut up to this shoulder first. So the dimension from here to here is 75.5 mil, so I'm going to make a mark at that location. I've got a dial indicator on the carriage so that I know where this location is, so that I can creep up on it when I'm turning down the bar. Okay, we've got 450 microns left to take off, so I'll do 3 more passes, 2 at 200 and 1 at 50. Okay, we're on 15.95, so that's not too bad. That'll work just fine. Now I'm going to work on this shoulder. So the dimension from the end is 41.5, so I'll mark that and then work up to it. Okay, the dimension I'm aiming for turning the thread is 11.97, and at the moment I've got 12.8, so I've got over 800 microns still to take off. Alright, with any luck that'll be us on finished size for threading. So we're on 11.96. Just going to very gently chamfer these edges. Okay, I'm going to mark the location of the end of the threads and put a little thread gutter in place to run the tool into when I'm turning the threads. I spent a while faffing around with the change gears. The change gears noted on the lathe itself for a 1.5mm thread pitch don't actually work. There's a clash that you can't get rid of. So I spent quite a while working out what change gears to use. I actually went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 iterations before I got one that worked without any clashes. Maybe I'll go into a bit more detail on that in another video. Anyway, I'm gonna do a scratch pass now just to ensure that I've got those change gears correct, so fingers crossed. Yep, scratch pass is looking good. So those change gears are correct. I'm aiming for a minor diameter of 10.34mm, and I had a major diameter when I started of 11.96mm. So I worked out that with the compound slide set at 30 degrees, I need to take off 9.3mm, and that's a direct read off the compound slide. So I'm pretty much at that value now, so we're almost there. Just need to sneak up on getting the nut to fit. Okay, it's just a fraction too tight. After a bit of fettling, I've got this nut to fit on nicely. Next we can work on this end of the toolpost mounting stud. This threaded section goes into the toolpost mount itself, and this 20mm diameter section goes inside the toolpost. It can only be 15mm long, otherwise there's not enough clearance for it inside the toolpost. So in order to ensure I get that 15mm long, I've set the chuck jaws right up against this shoulder. And then I've used a combination of the carriage hand wheel and a dial indicator to get the cutting tool 15mm away from the chuck jaws, and I'll make a mark on the part with it in the correct location, And I've also zeroed this dial indicator on that location so I can work up to that shoulder using the dial indicator. I was hand feeding before because I didn't change the change gears from the 1.5mm thread change gears, but I'm getting a pretty bad finish, so I've swapped the change gears out to give me the fine feed. I've also honed the cutting bit in order to try and improve the surface finish. We're currently on 14mm, so I've got 2mm to take off. That's on the OD. I reset the dial indicator because I moved the tool when I took it out to hone it. We're at 12.5mm. We're aiming for 11.97. Okay, we're on 12mm, almost bang on. So we've got 30 microns to take off to get our target diameter. I'm not going to use the cross slide for this. I'm going to dial in 10 microns on the compound slide and sneak up on the dimension. Okay, we're at 11.94, so slightly undersized, but still within spec. Put a chamfer on these shoulders. I'm going to use this grooving tool to give me a thread gutter up against the shoulder. I'm going to cut it to a depth of 9.9mm, so that's nominally 2mm off the diameter, and that'll put the gutter at the same depth approximately as the thread. Okay, that's not working at all. There's far too much chatter. This is actually the reason why I'm making the Toolpost mount. I'm going to center drill the end of the Toolpost mounting stud so that when we cut the threads we get nice crisp threads and there's no deflection. Just done a scratch pass to check that we've got the change gears right and it's all looking good. I've zeroed the dials. According to my sums, I need to dial in 0.92 millimeters in order to get to the finished thread depth. After some fettling, managed to get the nut to fit nicely. Still a tiny little bit tight on the front end, but I think there's just a burr there. This length of screw thread that we've cut is a little too long, so I'm going to trim it down. That'll be the next job. Now for the chamfer. Let's see how well the stud matches the drawing. Seems pretty good. Let's check the thread in the tool post mount. That's a really nice fit. There's one final thing we need to do to the stud in order to finish this off. So the diameter of this section, which is the register, at the moment is 20 millimeters, and we need to take it down to approximately 19.96 millimeters in order for the tool post to fit over it. I'm just going to polish that in order to take off those 40 microns. So we'll head over to the lathe and do that. Okay, I've got the lathe set on its highest speed, 2000 RPM, and I've got some 400 grit emery paper. I'm going to use a little bit of WD-40 as lubricant. I think that seems good. I'm going to go with that. It's time to do the final assembly of the tool post mount and the mounting stud. I'm going to take a test cut on this 20mm bar I've got mounted in the collet chuck. In the tool post I've got a grooving tool, which is also called a parting tool. I've got the lathe set at a spindle speed of 420 RPM. Okay, that's a lot more chatter than I was hoping for. I guess it must mean that the chatter is coming from somewhere other than the compound slide, which we've removed. So I suppose some other places it could be coming from are the headstock bearings, or the cross slide, or possibly the quick change tool post. So I'm going to take a look at those at some point in the future.